Welcome to Beyond the Business Card podcast.
Before we start, I would like to apologize. I denied your company some business about 14 years ago.
Well, actually, I still haven't forgotten that. So don't think that lunch isn't on you afterwards. That's what I'm going to say.
I've been working since I was 12. Mom, unfortunately, had cancer, so I got into the family business a lot earlier. You don't have an option. It's not really, okay, can you do this? You have to do it. There are some months you're broke and some months you're doing very well. There's never a calm. It's not a salaried employee where you have a level every month. For some odd reason, I thought it's a good idea to buy a car with an installment of $400. My first salary in Dubai was 3,250 dirhams. Dislike the first few years in this city.
Okay.
And then you can't leave.
First of all, I'd never been to Dubai.
This is not a visiting the fan. That kind of prepares you that life is going to be like this and you just deal with it.
I bet that had a big impact on why you chose to look at stability then. I'm sick to death of people that look driving the Lambo, driving the Rolls Royce, seeing life look super easy. And I know as an entrepreneur myself that it's blooming hard. It's the war wounds and the sacrifices I also want to understand in this.
After the calm, you're like, I'm okay with the chaos.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Sachinn Laala is the co-founder and CEO of Liquid Havas, a Dubai-born agency that bet on commerce marketing back in 2016. It paid off. In 2024, they were snapped up by global powerhouse Havas and now work with brands like Nestle and PepsiCo.
You have to make it work. If you f up, you're screwing it up for the next person. If I don't deliver today, will Havas do an M&A again in the region? No.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here. I think before we start, I would like to apologize. I denied your company some business about 14 years ago when I was approached for an account director job. I never took it up, but I guess it was a good thing. That's why I'm here.
Well, actually, I still haven't forgotten that. So don't think that lunch isn't on you afterwards. That's what I'm going to say to that. It's a real pleasure having you on today. You've got a heck of a story. You're one of the few founders who's built an independent agency in this part of the world and then taken it to an acquisition. I think that's, pats on backs to you. I'm going to be fascinated by that story and how you, but what we like to do in this in this podcast is really understand the person behind that story. Okay.
Sure.
Because whilst on paper it might look fantastic, you are, the CEO of a business that's been acquired by a big global group. No doubt the journey there was one full of bumps in the road. Okay. And this is the whole reason and rationale why I did this podcast, because I was, frankly speaking, I'm sick to death of people that look, driving the Lambo, driving the Rolls Royce, showing, making life look super easy. And I know as an entrepreneur myself that it's blooming hard, getting to where you are, where you want to go, it compounds over time. Most successful people I know, pretty much all the successful people I know, in fact, have put blood, sweat and tears into something and tend to have a few sacrifices and war wounds along the way. And it's the war wounds and the sacrifices I also want to understand in this. Okay. So what we do is we discuss, obviously I'd be interested to hear about your background, where you've come from, what led you to this part of the world, what brought you into entrepreneurship. And then of course, everyone's going to be very interested in the whole acquisition story, what it's like to go through that. So if you don't mind, let's get stuck in.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. Always great to tell a story. I think it's always good to also tell others how they can go about it, because I think Dubai is a fantastic place to do something like this. So firstly, I'm from India, born and brought up in a very small town in Andhra Pradesh. Was educated there, spent most of my life, my teenage years there. I come from a business family. So my dad ran retail outlets. So retail has been always part of my childhood. Moved to Pune to do some education and work. And at that point, my sister had moved to Dubai. So I came to visit 2004. I was 24 years old, had no real career aspirations, was working in Pune. Life was good. And ended up staying here. Took up a job with Standard Chartered, worked there for a bit. And while I was working with Standard Chartered, my background in college is advertising and marketing. So I thought it was a good place to kind of switch fields. Joined a small boutique agency. From there, moved to Fortune Promo 7. Fortune Promo 7 to the big part of my career was Saatchi, where I spent 8 years. And I think that kind of gave it a good foundation on where I am today. But I think before we get here to where Liquid is, I think Sachi was a brilliant experience. That's where I also met my co-founder of Liquid, Coleman Sheel, who was my creative director. So I come from varied backgrounds in the advertising realm. I used to be an ATL guy, used to lead Pampers and Ariel for EMEA with my bosses sitting in London and Singapore. Did that for about 6 years. And I actually had the opportunity of moving to Singapore in 2012. Um, I almost packed my bags. I told my boss at that time, who was Adil, I said, I'm going to Singapore. I want something new. And he just didn't want to let me go. And he said, you know what? We have this thing called Sachi and Sachi X, which is focusing on shopper marketing. Do you want to lead the division? And I just gave it a go. I had no interest in commerce at that time, but I tried to leave retail. Retail didn't leave me. So I ended up with leading Sachi and Sachi X. That's where I met Coleman, who was the creative director at the time at Sachi X. Did that for about 3 years. And it was a fantastic journey transitioning from ATL to commerce. I think it's one of the most undervalued divisions an advertising agency has in the region. Even though this region is all about retail and commerce, for some reason, it's never caught on. Like no big.
The people don't see it as the sexy one, do they? Let's be frank.
Money is good. There's a lot of hard work. Yes, it's not sexy, but I mean, today, after being in the business for 8 years and doing Liquid for 8 years, today, every big network agency wants to focus on commerce, right? It's the real truth. You can't run away from it because more and more brands are talking ROI. They are talking, okay, where is our money going? So this was always going to happen. I think this is where you have to think ahead and not think about the present. That's why we get the big monies, right? To understand what's going on. So I think that was the start of the commerce journey for me in Sachi. And of course, 2015, at the end of 2015, Publicis made a massive change of Power of One. They combined Arc and Sachi X, which was, hey, we want one shopper marketing agency for the entire group. So there was a lot of changes that happened. And I think as a result of it, while we were not asked to leave or change what we were doing, I think there was a bit of, does Arc represent shopper marketing in the region? Does Sachi X represent shopper marketing in the region? And I just felt like the focus on commerce from a network standpoint of view wasn't clear.
Gotcha.
And we said, okay, you know what? Let's give it a go. I was 36 at the time. I said, okay, let's give this a go. And that's how Liquid was born.
That's how your business was born. Well, look, we've got a lot to unpack before we get onto that, though, because you've just pressed the fast forward button on a significant chunk of your life and career, and I'm pretty sure there's a few more interesting nuggets in there. So you brought up in India.
Yes.
And how many siblings have you got?
One sister, and she's still in India. She came to Dubai and she's gone back. So
Older,
yeah. 5 years. Yeah.
So you were the younger boy, sort of seeing what your sister had done. Is there a big age gap between you?
5 years, but also I'm a younger boy in India.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know, we are extremely spoiled. If you were born as a guy, you would be born in India because your mom just pamper the hell out of you. That's one of the reasons why we have this godlike syndrome, because we don't think there's anything wrong with us.
Yeah.
That's how we're brought up.
Yeah.
Right. We are pampered, and it's just across the board. The entire family is just, you're a boy, do what the hell.
Gotcha. Dad, entrepreneur?
Dad was always a business guy. He never worked for anyone. He had businesses all his life. And that's why when I moved away from doing business, he wanted me to run the family business. I'm a North Indian boy who follows the family realm normally, joins the family business. In my case, I just didn't feel that connection. I just didn't feel like business was my thing. I wanted to do something, work for an MNC, and I left home and I went and joined a bank in Pune.
Yeah.
And at that point, of course, my entire family was up in arms saying, you are going to work for someone, like you're a disgrace. What the hell's going on?
The rebel.
Yeah, you're the rebel. What's going on? But it was a good journey. I think if that would have not happened, I think when you don't work for someone, you don't learn discipline. You don't learn ethics. You don't learn what it means to set up a professional business, because in your own business, who's going to tell you what's right and what's wrong, right? You have to go through that journey. So that was the good step that happened, left the family business. But, I've been working since I was 12. Mom, unfortunately, had cancer. So I got into the family business a lot earlier than most people do.
So you got under the bonnet of the family business. You kind of knew what was ahead.
Yes.
From having that experience with your mum.
So at the age of 12, I had to get in.
So this kid that was mollycoddled, wrapped up in cotton wool by his mum's, then just suddenly saw that security blanket become quite fragile.
Yeah. I had to just step in and help dad and, get the ball rolling.
Did that toughen you up a bit?
I think it helps you grow up. You don't have an option. This is not, it's not really, okay, can you do this? You have to do it. You just have to do it for keeping the family going.
Got you. But I guess with that, you're sat there working with your dad. Are you and your dad close?
Not really, but
really,
yeah. Two Aryans.
Yeah.
Not a good combination, but all right.
But I guess, I'm a dad myself, and I've always noticed that how I behave, how I act, probably has more of an impact on my kids than
100%.
anything else.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume you're seeing your dad working his socks off, working, that work ethic that clearly
100%.
was undeniable. Do you think that? Talk to me a bit about what you saw there.
I think, a lot of people talk about, there's this new thing of nepotism and, I think when you grow up in a business setup, you grow up in that environment where there are some months you're broke and some months you're doing very well. There's never a calm. It's not a salaried employee where you have a level every month. And that's kind of puts you in a different mindset of, don't worry, we can fix this. Anything that is thrown at you, because in a business, there are different problems that come up, from taxation to workforce to competition. You just get used to the uneasiness. It's part of your life. This is not a shit is hitting the fan. It's normal. You get up every morning and there's something new and you just address it. So I think in a way that kind of prepares you that life is going to be like this, and you just deal with it. Don't overthink it.
I bet. And at a young age, being so exposed to that, I bet that had a big impact on why you chose to look at stability then with an M&C.
100%.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to, after doing the business for about 6-7 years, I said, I want a boring life. I want to just get up in the morning, not worry about cash flow, not worry about... I'm sure my father's turning in his grave while I'm having this conversation, because I ended up starting a business. But at that time, it was, let me just, have a very nice, enjoy my 22 working day holidays, not worry about what's happening while I'm on leave. I wanted a life like that.
But only for so long, but that's hence why we're having this conversation today.
Indeed.
Look, the reason I say that is pretty similar to myself, actually, in some respects. So I grew up, my dad was one of these deal makers that either did it big or it was a disaster. Okay. So we ended up, I was born in America, but we ended up living in Spain, England, and kind of going around with my dad's business was.
Okay.
So, but we were either wealthy or broke. It was like, honestly, that's how I was brought up, had everything. And when my dad went big, he bought a boat, bought 2 houses, and then 3 years later, oh shit, dad's lost everything, and that's kind of how it was this rock and roll stability, instability, sorry. So I remember at school, I had this weird setup at school that I've spoken about before, where my dad had gone by then. He was away from home. So my mum was on in the UK, that's the government. I was on government assistance. So we had this government assistance house, but I was going to a posh private school where people would turn up in Rolls Royces and stuff. So I was living this complete contrasting life. Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember being interviewed at school by the careers lady, and I distinctly remember this saying, "What do you want to do?" And I think I said something along the lines of, "I'd just like to run a shop or something, have a real steady Eddie life," because I'd just seen this crazy, volatile world I've been brought up in. But of course, as an adult, what I can see I've turned into is this risk-taking entrepreneur that's completely comfortable with chaos, right? So obviously it's, it was in my blood, and it sounds to me like
it plays a part.
It's definitely
plays
right?
a part. You get used to it. And I guess after the calm, you're like, I'm okay with the chaos.
Yeah.
It's all right.
So you say your dad is probably turning in his grave. I bet he's probably quite proud, actually.
I hope he is.
Yeah.
I hope he is.
Yeah. So from the kind of, the was your mum okay, by the way?
She passed away 7-8 years later, but it is.
But you got through that time.
Yes.
Okay.
So at that time,
pleased
it
to
was,
hear that. Yeah.
it was hectic.
So you stepped in. You've kind of, obviously you're a 12-year-old who's a boy of the world, knows what's going on, right? Got under the bonnet of a business, understood what's going on. Sisters moved to Dubai. You've decided that there's a bigger world out there and you want to go stable, right?
Yes.
And Standard Chartered Bank was the choice, right?
So from Vizag, where I was born, brought up, went to Bombay for a bit.
Yeah.
From Bombay, I moved to Pune.
Yeah.
Pune was where I did some more education.
Okay.
I got a stable job. Was there for about 2 years. And at that phase, my sister Priya had already moved to Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, why am I staying in Pune? Dad's in Vizag, sister's in Dubai. Let's at least two of us stay in one place.
And for people that don't know the geography, so I imagine that's...
It's different cities,
but it's vast.
It's vast.
Yeah.
It's like Oman and
Yeah.
Dubai and somewhere.
So like the next town.
Yeah, it's not like the next town. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, the idea really was, okay, let's just stay someplace together. That's how Dubai happened. 13th April 2004. First flight out. First international flight out of India.
Wow. Okay.
Landed here.
Yeah.
And hated it for the first 2 years.
Really? Why?
It's a lot to take in. I think you have a massive friend circle back home. You know the lay of the land. You're comfortable. You're spoiled. You have transportation. You have drivers. Now, of course, I can afford all this. But at that time, when you moved to Dubai, I mean, my first salary in Dubai was 3,250 dirhams. So you can only imagine what that can buy. I used to work.
What year was this?
2004.
Okay. So what's that in USD back then?
I would say $800, I would say.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And for some odd reason, I thought it's a good idea to buy a car with an installment of $400.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So I said, okay, I have $400 to live and then $400.
I got a lovely car.
A lovely car. It was a superb car. And worked 6 days a week. So, of course, when you're living that life, you question decisions and you're like, why the hell am I here? Like, why don't I go back home? Easier life, better money. I think you just have to go through the grind. You have to give it time.
But you obviously were influenced by the Dubai bling. I mean, for the fact that you've gone and got a car with, half your salary on finance, that is textbook what I tell people not to do when they move here, right? I mean, my staff, I remember this guy, he moved over, he got his first tax-free salary. I was watching him, he was our most junior person in the office, and he was getting sushi platters like at lunchtime. It was arriving on the delivery. I was thinking, what is this kid? Is he a trust fund kid or something? No, he was, and then he had him turn up in a Mercedes. No, he just financed everything. He borrowed to the hill, what made you finance half your salary?
I think you're a 24-year-old. Are you really thinking?
Well,
like, as a 24-year-old,
But you just said, "Oh, why have I made this decision? I want to go somewhere else. Not live a nice life." That must have been after you bought the car. And,
absolutely, the first. It takes you a year to get a license. You work 6 days a week. You're working 45 hours a week. These things are new to people who move to Dubai. So I think the perception when you're sitting outside Dubai is there's sun, there's money, there's fancy cars. Life is cool, right?
Yeah.
When you arrive, you're like, shit, there's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And then you're like, do I really want to put in this kind of work? So I think it takes you, I think most people dislike, hate would be a strong word, dislike the first few years in this city.
Okay.
And then you can't leave.
Yeah.
Then we all are here for a long period of time. And I think I'm not.
Yeah, I don't think my dislike was 2 years. My dislike, but I had a dislike when I first arrived. And then my dislike was, first of all, I'd never been to Dubai, right? So it was coming in with a very naive set of eyes. I moved in 2008. So this was the only place
at the
professing.
time of just starting of the crash.
Well, I was in London where the crash had fully blitzed. I saw where my office was. It wasn't far from Lehman Brothers. The tornado had gone through, right? So I thought at the time, I was then offered a job out here. This was the place that was professing that the recession hadn't touched by then. Now, obviously, we all know, it was coming. Yeah. But so I got in before it came. But what I didn't realize, it was like some minor things, and perhaps the company that brought me over could have helped me out here. I didn't know you had to pay rent up front. I didn't know that there was more people, that there wasn't enough apartments here. I didn't know that it was so bloody hot, quite frankly, and that I didn't have a car, and I thought you could walk. There's some fundamental small errors that I made. Yeah, I remember sitting on the pavement, having missed out on the next flat opportunity, thinking, where am I going to live? Because the 2 weeks in the hotel was coming to an end that the employer gave me. Okay, what have I done? And I was sweating so much because it was so hot. And I was like, this place is so expensive. This place is so weird. Everyone writes checks. I hadn't seen a check for God knows how long, right? And what have I done?
A deposit?
Oh, everything. Checks. You had to buy books of checks to do anything. Anyway, I got through it. But I think those first couple of months, I did think, what the fuck was going on? Not 2 years, though. That 2 years is a long time, man.
2 years is a long time. But again, I think when you're doing that kind of hours, I would say 1.5 year where license hasn't arrived, you're still depending on public transportation and,
there wasn't any then, was there?
There was a bus. I would take a bus, and it would take me 1.5 hour to come one way and 1.5 hour to go the other way. And, it wasn't great. But to be honest, I think you have to go through that journey. And today, looking back, it's a memory I cherish. And
a blessing.
It's a memory I cherish. I mean, I could really afford a movie every weekend with the $400 I had left, but that's what I did.
Yeah, and a bag of popcorn, and that was dinner, right?
That was dinner. Yeah.
Okay, so what are you doing at Standard Chartered when you're here?
Standard Chartered, I joined customer service.
Okay.
Did that for a bit. Did some
customer service,
help clients with their accounts and stuff.
Okay, so client management. Yeah, so you're doing that. You're dealing with grumpy people.
100%.
Okay.
I don't think there is anyone out there who deals with a bank or a telecom company that's happy.
Yeah.
Does not exist.
Yeah. So I only call up when I'm miserable as well. I'm pissed off about something. Exactly. So you're right.
So if you're working in a bank or a telecom company, you better be patient because you have no happy customers. But it was a good time to understand what Dubai was like, what people were like. And it kind of gave me a good understanding on what's next. That's why the advertising opportunity that I chased.
But that customer service though, that is what's perfect schooling for account management. What perfect schooling for pacifying individuals.
Just shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Shut your mouth. Hear them out.
Yeah.
In reality, they know that they can't do much.
Yeah.
And you can't do much because you are, following guidelines and rules. They want to be heard out. They want to know that you care.
Yeah.
And you're trying your best to fix it.
Yeah.
The truth is 80% of the time you can't because you are following the guidelines. But if you are cutting someone abruptly or you're not letting them tell their story, they really just want to be heard out, saying the bank cares. I think if you hear someone out, after a while, they themselves will calm down and they will understand that there are some rules and regulations you need to follow.
Gotcha.
You've tried.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. And they move on.
And why didn't you stay at the bank?
Bank was great. I hated the tie, to be honest.
The tie?
Yeah. I couldn't get up at 8 in the morning every day. I couldn't wear a tie. I told you I'm spoiled.
Yeah. So that was that. The tie killed it. Banking's not for me.
No.
So did you sort of look, okay, what industries are there that don't wear ties?
I looked at the industry that gave me something new every day. I did advertising as my master's. So it gave me a good insight. I get bored very easily. And I think advertising was a fantastic career because it gave you something new every day. Every client is different. Every industry is different. You're in the same business. You can't get up every day and say, hey, I know this because someone's going to throw something at you and say, this is not in the book. This is not what I've learned in the last 15, 20 years. So advertising was a good, same job, but it felt new every day.
So how does one pivot from banking customer service into advertising? Maybe some advice?
I don't have any creative bone in me, so account servicing. So I became an account executive.
But how do you pivot? I'm intrigued because pivoting into different industries is not an easy thing to do. Yeah.
I think if you're not pivoting as a senior, it's an easy thing to do, because if you're getting a junior role, everyone wants to give someone an opportunity. And in reality, I mean, what's the risk at a junior role, right? What are you going to really lose? I think the risk really happens when you're trying to pivot when you're an account manager or a senior employee, because you want someone with experience. So as an account executive, I mean, it took me a few months, but wasn't really.
And how did you get the job?
Knew someone, they sent me somewhere, landed at that person's contacts. Okay, know me.
Dubai is a blessing for that, right?
Yeah, it is. And it really wasn't a referral. It was more right time, right place. They were looking for someone. I was looking for a job, landed up there. I said, can you try me out? The vibe was good. The boss said, okay, let me hire you. It was a 5,000 dirham job. She had nothing to lose. I turned out to be okay. And that's how the first advertising gig happened.
And what agency was that?
It doesn't exist anymore. It was called Noble.
Okay. So you went boutique. You went to an SME business.
Of course. No MNC would touch you.
Yeah.
So Noble was the first agency. And after Noble, I went to another agency called Percept.
Mm-hmm.
They're part of Hakudu.
Yeah.
And
Hakudu, a big Japanese group. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So these were the first two small ones I tried. Then the big one came, FP7.
That's McCann for anyone.
Yeah. It took me a while to get there. A lot of interviews. And did McCann for a bit.
So what do you think, how did you get to McCann? How can someone go from local small business to get noticed to be signed up by an international company? Do you know what you did?
Contact Justin.
Contacts. Yeah. But it must have been proof of.
It was proof of concept. And to be honest, the recruiter helped me. Okay. So I went through a recruiter. She was kind enough. Yeah. She again put my CV at the right place, right time. After that, you have to do your thing.
Yeah.
Again, account executive. So Noble was account executive. Yeah. Percept was account executive. FP7 was account executive.
So you're grafting at the same level, but you're more interested in sort of developing your career.
Yeah. So that was, FP7 was great. I think anyone who tells me where would I start my advertising career, I'm like, start at McCann. Because the way you are, I don't know if things have changed, but at that time, there's no time for lunch. You worked through your lunch, you worked 5 days, mostly 6 days. They grafted you.
Yeah.
Nothing can scare you after that. I think if you've done FP7, someone says it's a hard life, you're like, bring it on. It's okay. I can take it.
Yeah.
McCann was great. It was a great learning because I got dumped with so much work that I had to learn. Learn on the job. There was no time to moan, whine, just learn the job. And while I was at McCann, Sachi was this dream. They were in the villas with the swimming pool. So when you're working at McCann and someone's saying, hey, this advertising agency with the swimming pool is looking for people, you're like, hey, I want to go there.
I'm intrigued how many people were actually ever swam in that pool.
They did on the weekend.
Yeah.
Or after we got drunk in the bar next door. But it took me a year. I did 4 interviews with Sachi. I started interviewing in 2007. And funnily enough, I started interviewing for an account executive job. A year later, I got as an account manager. So I joined Sachi literally after 4 interviews a year later. So anyone who says, hey, my interview process is long, I'll be like, calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay.
So that's how Sachi happened.
Yeah.
I was very proud. The first day I walked into that office, there's something about, I know there's a lot of agencies out there, but there's something about Sachi and Sachi.
Gotcha.
That name just excites.
Yeah.
There's a mystery that I don't think anyone can take away.
Sachi, I'm intrigued. You've joined Sachi.
Yeah.
The agency with the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've obviously heard great things about the place.
Absolutely.
Aside from the swimming pool, what had you heard?
That's it.
That's it.
Swimming pool, it was opposite the beach.
Okay.
I don't think you need any more.
Yeah. But I also know people that worked in advertising around that time. That's a 24/7 job, right? I think if you were the person at the beach in the swimming pool, you'd be the first out the door.
Yes. And it was very much like that. You only had a good view. You still had to work. But again, I think I was just proud. I was proud to make it to Sachinn. Sachi, FP7 was great. I mean, no.
Sounds like that was your school.
Yeah, that was the school. But Sachi was like, you've arrived. 2008 is when I joined, and we used to have 3 beautiful villas. It was opposite the beach. Sometimes unnerving when you're starting to work. People are, heading to the beach and enjoying themselves. You're like, but it was good. It was superb. Gave me very good access to good clients. Red Bull at that time, Mall of the Emirates was the second client I had. So it was a good learning ground. We were at the villas from 2008 to 2011. 2011, Sachi moved to the Business Central Towers in Media City. So there was a bit of a change of how the office looked and felt. But by that time, I was a little bit more serious about my career. So the beach and the pool wasn't the motivation.
Wasn't your priority.
Yeah, wasn't a priority. I was also in my 30s by then. So I was like, okay, let's get serious about this. At the start of 2013, I got an opportunity to move with Sachi to Singapore to manage the Pampers Asia business with one of my bosses who was moving from UK to Singapore as well. And at that point, I spoke to my local boss. I said, hey, I'm moving to Singapore. And he's like, can I offer you something else? Why are you going? I said, I'm bored. So he said, okay, can I give you something completely different, which was Sachi X, which was the commerce division. I gave it a thought. Of course, at that time wasn't exciting. As you said, commerce is graft. There's no TVC and there's no massive shoots.
It's not the big sexy advert.
No,
you're not. You're going to get football players and actresses involved and stuff like that.
It's graft.
Yeah.
And as an ATL guy, you always looked at commerce and you said, we used to give commerce guys 15 minutes in our entire presentation saying, okay, you have 15 minutes, present whatever you want, just go for it. So I said, do I really want to be that guy who gets 15 minutes? And I said, why don't we change that perception? Let's make commerce more important. So I stayed back. And 2013 to 2016 was a good pivot on understanding commerce. It takes you a bit of time. It's so simple that it's so complex. My first meeting was with Nike, and I was presenting the creds, and they said, so do you do brand building? I said, no, we focus on sales. Okay, so there's no brand building involved. I'm thinking, shit, there is brand building involved. You are talking about your brand on the floor.
Yeah.
So then you focus on brand building or you focus on sales? I was lost. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I took a break. I went to the Sachi X office in London, sat there for 2 months, understood the business.
Yeah.
I said, if I can't sell this business, how the hell am I going to lead it?
Yeah.
And that's where I got a good understanding of, okay, what is commerce in the first place? It's not the shelf strip and the, wobbler that you're talking about.
So give us for those that are watching or listening and haven't got a clue what commerce is. Yeah.
Yes.
Give us the dummies guide, quick 2-minute dummies guide as to what commerce is.
So I think commerce is really about telling facts about your brand, right? It's telling you why you should have the product over the sexy line that an ATL agency gives you. It's not the brand promise, it's the product promise of what that product will do for you in your life. Whether it's solving a problem, whether it is helping you with an emotional need, different attributes of it. It's more real. That's the best way to put it. Whether it's on the shelf, whether it's on e-commerce, it's more real because it's solving a purpose in your life.
Yes.
Whereas brand is more, this is what I stand for, this is my value systems. And that's how, commerce is simple and yet complex because you have to think about it. The famous line is, if your grandma can understand it, you're doing something right.
Gotcha.
And that's what we did. So I think 2013 to 2016, there were 2 parts that kind of came about quite nicely. One was we were doing the offline commerce, and I must give credit to my boss because he said, hey, why don't you look at e-commerce as well? Like, why are you doing only offline commerce? And I said, hey, that's a good idea. So we started doing some e-commerce work. Life was good. I loved the golden handcuffs. I was paid extremely well. My boss had given me full freedom. really didn't need a change. Very happy. But I think at that time, Publicis, which today is, the darling of the share market, had bought Sapient. And they were going through a rough patch. And they had to pivot and they had to create a story. So the story was part of one. And very similar to most big network agencies, I got a small note, and within that note, there was a small line that said Sachi and Sachi X is now going to be folded, and we will now only have ARC as part of. And I never even read the note. Someone called me 2-3 weeks later saying, "What are you doing now?" I'm like, "What the fuck do you mean by what I'm doing now? I'm leading Sachi X." They're like, "Sachi X doesn't
Gone.
exist."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Really? Doesn't exist?" I had to go back, read the note. Like, "You're right." I went to my boss. I'm like, "Dude, Sachi X doesn't exist." And he said, "Yeah, you continue doing what you're doing." I said, "It's not a dark secret, man. Like, we're making money for the network." And he said, "It is what it is." I mean,
Were you made redundant?
no. So we just had to remove X from our,
So you got rebranded
yes,
overnight
overnight.
when no one told you anything about it.
No.
Did the business have to change in any way?
Nothing. You just continue to do what you're doing. Just remove X from your LinkedIn page.
And now you're ARC.
And now you're Sachin Sachi, and now you do commerce within the Sachin Sachi.
Oh, okay.
realm.
Fine.
So
Just no more X.
no more X. But I really didn't feel nice about it, because I said, we're not a dark secret, man. We're making money for the network, right? We're making money for the agency. Why does this need to be like a untold secret? I'm not going to introduce myself as, I'm part of Sachi and Sachi when I'm doing X. So it irritated me a little bit, where, again, nothing my boss could do. It was a global decision. Nothing even the local bosses could do, because, again, it was a global decision. There was an ARC that existed here at that point. But like most network agencies, their commerce wasn't a focus. And rightfully so. There's so much happening. There's, Sapient there. They were cooking something much bigger, which is why 10 years later, today, Publicis is ruling the roost. Because at that time, what's happening today is an outcome of what they were doing at that time. It's not what they did today, right? So rightfully, they were in the right path.
So you sort of felt that you were onto something within this big network, that having an identity actually gave you an edge. You love the fact, but clearly that your commerce brand had its own marking, and clients knew what they were getting because of that, right?
I think commerce overall then and even now has always been important for the region. For some odd reason, none of the network agencies have been able to crack it.
See, I always think of it shopper marketing, if you will. I always think of cigarettes. That's because that's they're the big money makers in that space, right?
True. But cigarettes have a different problem. The problem is it's a dark market. You can't talk about it.
Yeah.
So you have to be intelligent in the solutions. But when you talk about commerce, your messaging in store changes. The way you tell your story changes. So there's a lot to be done. And it's hard graft. And it's rare to find people who know the craft. So even from a recruitment standpoint of view, if I give you a brief today saying, get me a shopper marketing creative director, you will struggle because there's far and few in between. It's not sexy. Most of the time you end up hiring a junior or a mid-level art director, and then you train and you craft and you graft that thing. Servicing is slightly easier because you're servicing the client, you understand the product better, but you're not doing the work.
Gotcha.
The creatives need to do the work. So I think after doing that for 3 years with Sachi, it was a superb journey. I learned a lot. Again, Sachi really wasn't asking me to leave. They were very happy. And to be honest, when I was leaving, I was sent to ARC. Basil told me to stay back. And he gave me an offer. He said, why don't you kind of... But I said, at 36, let's try something new. Spoke to my creative director, Coleman, at that time. I said, dude, you want to try something new? He said, yeah, why not? He was very keen. I spoke to a few people who weren't interested. They didn't want to take the risk. So he co-founded Liquid with me. I thank him for trusting me for it.
Okay. But let's just, whoa there.
Yes.
So you're in a really good spot at Sachinn.
Yeah.
You're a little bit aggrieved by the fact they've taken your ex away,
Yes.
but you're paid well, job's there, everyone's happy with what you're doing, making money for the business. Yeah?
Yes, 100%.
So what's going on? Why all of a sudden have you just suddenly pivoted and told me, well, and then I just decided to set up my own business?
So I think the other part that also kind of threw me off a little bit was at that time, we were also trying to do e-commerce. And within the network, the e-commerce expertise sat in Poland. So Sachinn had acquired an agency called Interactive Solutions that was in Poland.
Yeah.
That's where today's Sachinn's Commerce Hub sits by the way, because they acquired that agency at that point. And because it became Power of One and every region was separated, the indication to us was don't work with the Poland office, work with the local office. And we have Sapient. And why don't you work with Sapient rather than working with Poland? And again, Sapient is doing $100 million deals. I mean, they sell stuff on a
technology company.
Yeah, they're a technology company. They have nothing to do with commerce.
So you couldn't really muscle in there.
One, I couldn't muscle in there. Two, they would have looked at me saying, what the hell is this guy smoking?
Not priority.
Yeah, it's not my first, not priority. Two, he's talking so small and we are talking, we want to change the business environment. You're talking, I want to sell Pampers on soup.com. So it was a completely different business. And I just felt like, you needed freedom to work with the right people. It's all about talent. This is what we offer. And if you're restricted to working with the Middle East, because you can't work with a different market, rightfully so, they had to realign their strategy and,
so you just felt like you couldn't really grow the business, that there were too many things working against you.
You can't tie your hands and say, now run the race, I want you to win it. It's not possible.
Okay.
And that's what I liked about Sachinn. That's what I liked about my boss. He allowed me, said, this is the money I want to make. This is what I want out of you. Fuck off. Do it however the hell you want. I don't care. I don't want to know your methodology. I want the result.
So why didn't you go and get another job?
I was offered. Arc was a good understanding. Geometry also spoke to me about it. And at that point, I think what irked me a little bit was Sachinn was 8 years. He had delivered numbers year after year. There was no problem. There's a global realignment of how Sachinn thought and how publicists thought about the network. Nothing to do with the region. This wasn't our doing. And overnight, our life changed. So I said, I feel like I'm not in control about my own destiny, even though I'm doing well. Like I'm not underperforming for me to change my direction of life. And I said, let me just give it a go. I want to try something of my own. I want to prove a point that one, commerce is important. Two, it can make money, which today we know it can. And three, this region needs commerce. We sell retail as our brand for tourism. Why the hell should we not have a commerce agency? Didn't make any sense. So we said, okay, not now, when?
So, but in that set, so this, I think what you're probably underestimating here, though, is I want to do something myself, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to be your own boss.
Wasn't priority of being the own boss. More priority was we need freedom to do the right thing for the business.
So freedom was the drive.
Yeah, freedom was the drive.
Freedom was the drive.
Because your clients are trusting you.
Okay.
Right? They are saying, hey, my business, and we used to deal with FMCGs and multinationals, which we still do. Your client is trusting you to bring you the best talent, the most sophisticated talent for their business. Now, in that framework, if I say I can't get talent from abroad because I have to work with the region, I'm already being dishonest with my client.
Yeah, I got you. So were you not scared what a risk that was?
Man, I came here for a $800 job, right? What the fuck's going to happen?
Yeah.
I'm going to go lesser than that. You have nothing to lose. There's nothing that's permanent, success and failure. So I was very happy with giving it a go. And I'm really happy that Coleman agreed to give it a go because he had a kid by that time. I don't have a kid.
So he had a lot to lose.
He had a lot.
And how did you know this guy?
I met him. Coleman and me worked together at Sachinn.
So you had secret discussions with him about wanting to do something?
It was a very random I still remember February of 2016. I went up to him. I'm like, dude, there's just too much happening. Saatchi X, no Saatchi X, ARC. I would like to try something of my own. Would you want to join? Coleman didn't flinch. He didn't say, I will give it a thought. He said, yep. It was literally, this is how brief the conversation was.
Fantastic. Because he obviously believes in it.
Yeah. He said, okay, done.
And he believed in you.
He did.
Yeah.
I'm glad he did.
And did you decide to do it 50-50?
Yes. From day one, it was always 50-50. We invited other people to join who, for some reason, said okay, and then they didn't say okay, backed out. Rightfully so. Everyone has their own responsibilities and everyone has their own life.
I understand. So just to kind of give people context, though, so this is 2016.
Yes.
Who in the agency world had gone solo at that point and had made a success of it, and who had inspired you in Dubai?
I think there was one social agency that Leo Burnett bought. I can't remember the name, but there was one agency that was bought. But really at the start, we didn't give it so much thought. I think one of the reasons why we did well is we didn't overthink this at all. We said, we want freedom. Let's set up something of our own.
Well, the reason I asked that question, it was a leading question, is because there wouldn't have been anyone. It's a minefield. There is barely any. I mean, I've had a recruitment business in the creative sector for 15 years now, so since 2010.
Okay.
I've seen multiple like independents, mid-sized agencies pop up and disappear within 2 years. There wouldn't have been. There could have been Socialized was in its early days then. I know the digital agency you're talking about that was acquired. I can literally think of like...
Yes, Akansha had set up by then. She was working on
very early days.
Yeah.
Man, there was like a couple of PR companies that were maybe independent. Everything was network driven. There's Living Room were kicking around then.
Correct.
Who are now...
He was ex-MD of Sachinn.
Yeah, they probably may have been one of the success stories around that time.
Yes.
But not many at all. So this is a really bold move. You've downplayed that quite significantly.
I'm downplaying it because we didn't think about it so much.
Yeah, which perhaps works in your favor.
Yeah. And
then obviously you've been paid handsomely. You've got a nice salary.
Yes.
You've got a nice, this person that arrived with $800 a month, only be able to spend $400 because of this very wise car decision that you made. Now this person's got a different life in Dubai, right?
100%.
Yeah. Nice salary, nice apartment, nice life. What's going to happen with that life?
So again, didn't overthink it. I did freak out the first day I was sitting in the office because I was alone. I think 16th of August, I remember. 16th or 4th or 5th of August of 2016. I sat in that office. It was a small office we had taken in the loft offices in Media City, 800 square foot. And I told to myself, what the fuck have we done?
Yeah. So then dawned on you.
Yeah, I'm like, why am I not at Sachinn this morning on a Monday? So I didn't take any break. Friday was last day. At that time, it was Sunday. So it was Thursday last day at Sachinn. And then Sunday morning, I was sitting at the Liquid office alone. Coleman had gone to work and I had nobody. And I'm like...
So had he not started by then?
No. So Coleman, because we were putting in our own money, I told him, I said, don't quit. Let me go and get the work. So it'll take me a little bit of time to get the work. So you continue working for the next few months so that we don't put pressure. Let me take out some salary. So I took a massive pay cut and I started taking some salary from August because I needed some income, like all good.
So where did you take that salary from?
We both invested X amount of money.
Oh, okay. So you bootstrapped.
Yeah.
Okay. You were in, no investors, nothing.
Nothing.
Okay.
Didn't want any investors, nothing.
Okay. So you're taking a small salary to pay, get you through life.
Yes.
How did you get a client?
So, it's interesting because I approached my previous clients at Sachinn, which was Procter & Gamble. And a lot of people have asked me saying, oh, so you took your current client. I took my current client, but not the current business. So I didn't take the business that they were working with Sachinn. I took the business that they were working with other independent agencies.
Yes. Because they would have been locked into contracts with Sachinn.
Not only contracts, I think.
Principal.
A lot of people, like my ex-boss also got upset with me. He said, you're taking all my clients. I'm like, you're losing the client to some other agency. I'm going to that agency and I'm getting the work. So why don't you stop that part
So-
first?
That's the game, buddy. It's dog eat dog.
Yeah, like no, because to me it would be I have inside information, I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
the rate card, so it's easier.
Sounds like they were sore losers. That was all.
Sore losers, I think also, when you're losing business, you have to sit back, and it's happened to me recently actually, and we'll delve a little bit about it. You feel like the best way to go about it is to blame the person that's taken the business away. But the reality was, in the first year, so our first business was Procter & Gamble, was our smallest business.
Mm.
And my biggest business at Saatchi was Procter & Gamble.
Mm.
So when I moved, my assumption was, so Procter would be big,
Mm.
but they weren't.
Mm.
And I said, okay, Procter's not big. Let's go out and hunt.
Mm.
And the hunting started. First year was extremely tough from two perspectives. I never did new business. So
Never in your life.
never in my life, because Sachi, why the fuck would you need to do new business?
Mm.
Your inbox just rang. Hi, we would like to work with you.
Yeah.
Hi, here is an RFP. Here
Yeah.
is something. So you really didn't need to look. You just worked for a brand name. Like suddenly you're Liquid. You're like, who the fuck are you guys? Like, what do you do? First, you're offering something niche.
Yeah.
So firstly, what is commerce? E-commerce in 2016, FMCG.
Mm.
Who's buying
Mm.
these FMCG products online? And who's Liquid? And how the hell do we work with you?
Yeah.
So the first year was, I think I would have spoken to everyone about new business. And my first new business, actually, the big business that we got was Aujan Coca-Cola, who used to be my neighbor. I still remember that day. It was a Friday. The wife used to be an HR employee of Sachinn Saatchi. I was standing outside my house. She was passing by. She said, "Hey, Sachin, how are you? I live next door." And she introduced me to her husband, who was the trade marketing at Aujan Coca-Cola.
Right. There you go. The joys of the village that is Dubai.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I said hi. I took his card. And then 2 days later, I reached out and, he helped me introduce, and then we offered our services. And that's how the business grew. I have reached out to every Facebook contact I know. In the first year, Aujan Coca-Cola was a client of ours. Pepsi became a client of ours. Pepsi was a Facebook's contact to the marketing e-commerce manager, Bronwyn, who I still remember very well. She didn't answer my emails. So I contacted the Facebook friend saying, can you please call Bronwyn, who's on your Facebook list? Please ask her to answer my email.
And that was that.
That was that. And then she reached out
Yeah.
and then Bronwyn replied saying, okay, hi, I recognize you, come.
Well, so that first year though sounds like, I mean, that's normally, a very tough year for businesses. They say most businesses die in the first 6 months.
Yes.
How did you survive?
I think we were very frugal in how we spent our money. We had very limited staffing. There was no staffing. I had one account director. And the business was very slow to start with. I think we started in August. Our first payment from a client came in February of the following year. So for 8 months, we were bootstrapped.
And how did you survive?
I think Coleman and me were just intelligent in how we spent our money, and we were lucky in some instances. So it was a mix of quite a few things. Right time, right place. But also we were relentless in what we offered.
When did Coleman join you though?
So he joined us in December
Okay.
of that year.
And you started?
August. So for 4 months, I was,
Yeah.
running this ship.
And for anyone who doesn't know Dubai or the GCC, then August is normally a terrible month because everyone leaves. And December, also a terrible month because everyone leaves.
Yes.
So essentially, you didn't have long to get things going.
No, and this is where I tell people, when they have an idea, go for it. Don't overthink it. Because whatever you think will go right will go wrong.
Mm.
And whatever you think will go wrong will go right.
Yeah.
So don't give it more thought than needed. Jump in, be relentless, be focused, be disciplined,
Yeah.
But outside that, you don't have much control. You're an entrepreneur. You know, everything can change every single day.
Oh, and in recruitment, where we get smashed by Trump brings in some tariffs, confidence leaves the market, or put hiring on hold. Volatility, COVID, gone. Oil price crash. Got a lot of things that when I wrote my business plan, they weren't necessarily in it, right? So I know full well. At what point? So you've gone. Sounds like you've been super smart and very frugal in how you've run the business, which is a lesson for anyone. And bootstrapping is, it's not doing what you'd already bought the car on finance.
Yes.
So
I sold.
Yeah.
I left Sachi and I had a Porsche.
Yeah.
I left Sachi. I sold the Porsche.
Perhaps those lessons from the early years, they served you very well, right?
100%.
And you've been very frugal in bootstrapping, which is like the best thing to do as well. It was phenomenal. I mean, I remember when I set up, I lived, a very different life to what I've got now. I lived in my stepbrother had a place in Brixton in the UK, and his cupboard, it was essentially this world's smallest room. I lived in that, and my first boss, I basically begged him to give me some office space because he had spare office space in return for some free recruitment, and I got that. So I didn't actually have any outgoings. Well, everything I managed to do, went back into the business, and I managed to reinvest. I was super frugal. Sounds like you were very smart as well. Then you get these 2 lucky breaks.
Yes, they were, and also there was a little bit of desperation. So I started my business on the 7th of August. On the 10th and 11th, I don't remember the exact date. At that time, my wife, she lost her job as well. The same week.
Wow.
So I'm like, you know what? You're fucked.
Yeah.
You went from 2 incomes to no income.
Yeah.
So you better get your shit together and get this done. So it helped.
And in the August as well. So the crescendo sort of came together.
It helped.
As it does in life.
Yeah, I think if she would have kept her job, I would have been not as desperate. But she lost her job. There was no backup. Literally, all the money was in the business. There was no property, nothing. It was just...
So you met your wife out here in Dubai?
Yes. So I met my wife back in Pune.
Okay.
We're not married anymore.
Yeah.
And we got divorced in 2020. It wasn't a COVID divorce. It was more you're an entrepreneur. You don't deserve to have a partner. You need to focus on the business.
Oh, okay. Fine, got you. But you kind of had someone to confide in at that time when you launched it.
100%.
Yeah.
So she moved here in late 2004, and we were together till 2020. So we spent a bit of time together. But that 2016 part where she lost her job and then she was made redundant, and I started the company, and it was just mayhem. 2016 was like okay.
Actually, that was a year that I nearly went under.
Ah.
I made a lot of cock-ups that year. And the oil price had tanked. Do you remember?
Yes. And by the way, when I was starting the business, a lot of people told me, this is not a good year, do it next year.
Yeah. Because there was this, which is always the best time to open up a business.
Yeah. As I said, we didn't give it so much thought.
Yeah. It was, I was reeling from the oil price going down from $120 to $20, and this kind of slow... you would know it. I mean, you launched a business during that time. The actual population of Dubai shrunk.
Had shrunk, yes.
It's from 2016 to COVID. It was going down. I left to go to Singapore because things were flat here.
Yes.
But you had a nice niche that the businesses doesn't sound like your previous company, and other businesses weren't really recognizing the value in commerce, and you've seen that opportunity.
Yeah.
And the unsexy stuff, perhaps the stuff that is all driven bound sales and bringing money in, that's actually in a downward market. That's the stuff that becomes really crucially important. So few things actually worked with you then.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So you got the 2 clients, and I guess you've got case studies. All of a sudden, people are hearing about the work that you're doing, right?
Yes, 100%. I think the 2 clients helped. Also, I spoke a lot about Sachi experience in the first year. First 2 years. 1, I was proud of it. 2, we did something good there. So it wasn't something to hide about. And I think that gave clients some confidence that, okay, these 2 guys know what the hell they're doing.
They know what they're doing. Yeah.
Coleman has been doing, I'm an ATL guy who pivoted to shopper marketing and e-commerce. Coleman's always done this all his life. He was part of the first shopper marketing agency in the region, which was Black Pencil, which got rebranded as Arc. So he's been around this segment for a while.
Been around the block, as we're saying.
Been around the block, and it helped.
Yeah.
Our product was superb, still is, but there was a massive differentiation. So clients saw that.
Do you think at a time as well where power of one, where everyone's trying to be all things to all people, the fact that you decided to go niche? So we are Middle East experts and we only do this.
Yes.
Did that serve you well?
I think the one thing I must say, which I love about this city, is people are, while they care about brand names, they are happy to give individuals opportunity. They are happy to trust people. I think if I was in any other country, I would find it harder. Here, if you have a good contact, they're happy to listen to you. And of course, after that, once you're on the table, you have to show your value.
It's a relationship market.
Yeah, it's a relationship market. Relationship is good. They'll give you the first opportunity. You screw it up, you'll never see them again. But that helped. And that a lot of our clients became very good friends. It's one of the reasons that's kept me going. Like I know my clients very well, and I would call them friends today. I would not even call them clients. They call me, abuse me. They have stories to say. They have their own shenanigans going on in office. So it's a market that allows you in, which is what I like. I would find it difficult in a market that is very, I'm the client, you're the agency, let's have a professional. And I talk to my clients about everything.
I understand. At what point then did you think, hey, I'm onto something here?
I would say 2019.
Okay, so quite a long...
Yeah. 2016, we moved 3 offices in the first 2 years.
Okay. So you're growing, you're hiring?
We're hiring. We went from 4, 8, 12. I think by 2018, we were 40 people.
Wow.
It was a good sweet spot.
Doing good revenue.
40 people. Also, we were putting in
big salaries.
Big salaries. We were putting in a lot of money back in the business. So our profit margin was lesser, but our growth was 100%, 200%. We were growing massively. So I think until 2018, I think we didn't see that kind of success. We also lost our first big client within a year. They rebranded and they shut down one of the departments. So there was a little bit of change. But again, like we were just on it. We were not.
And for an agency that size, when a client decides to change a little bit, that's going to make quite an impact, right?
100%. But our focus always was, let's get 3-4 solid clients. So if one drops off, Coleman calls it three legs on a chair. If one leg falls off, you still have a few.
Gotcha.
So it kept me going on the new business front. And when we lost the client a year and a half later, we had other clients to sustain. Of course, we didn't downsize, but it allowed us a few months to go and pitch for new businesses and, get the ball rolling again.
So the point where you go, hang on, like we're onto something here.
Yes.
Yeah. What was there a specific time? Is there something you can remember that made you think like that?
I think in 2019, just before COVID, we went from loft office to the boutique offices.
Bigger offices.
Bigger offices. So we had taken the first floor. And in 2019, we said, you know what, let's take the ground floor also. The tenant was leaving. And we said, let's take the ground floor. Now, in hindsight, we shouldn't have because COVID happened. We signed the contract on the 31st of December, 2019. And then COVID happened in March. But at that point, when we were growing at that pace, we said, this is working.
Yeah.
This is not the small mom and pop shop that it was. Also, it gave me a little bit of room saying, okay, if I lose 2 clients tomorrow, I won't shut. Like it's not pivotal to the business. We will continue, we'll grow.
Enough cash in the bank.
Didn't have, and Coleman and me were not taking out massive dividends. I did buy my Porsche back in 2019, which was good.
Yeah.
Okay.
A new one, or did you track down the old buyer?
No, I bought a new one.
Oh, okay.
The old buyer had gone. I met him at the racetrack a few months later. He's like, oh, you bought the Porsche back? I said, yeah, thanks. So 2019 was a good year.
Yeah.
It was a good year to understand you're established, 40 people, sweet spot. Today we are 85, 90. I think it's too many. I think 40, 50 your crowd is good, you can control a lot more things.
Okay.
Then you had to trust other people, which...
And what difference did you had? Like, how did you manage to scale to 40? There's a lot of people that probably haven't got a clue how to get to a 40-person business, and you've never grown a business. So how the heck, you've obviously seen it in Sachinn.
Yes.
How did you manage to take the business to a bigger business quite quickly? What was the trick? And what advice could you give to someone who's looking to scale a business now?
My advice is, again, do not overthink the process. Do not overthink your success. You have to keep going. You get up in the morning, there's going to be a headache. There was a time when I used to get up in the morning saying, okay, what the fuck's going to hit me today? And then I had a good chat with Coleman, and he said, you get up in the morning, you're going to face some nonsense and you have to just deal with it. I think to scale up, you have to reinvest. You've been an entrepreneur. I think taking out money from your business while it's growing is harmful. Put back, make it stable enough where when the downfall occurs, you're not risking your business, which is what we did. The first 3-4 years, Coleman and me didn't touch any money.
Okay.
We were at it. Keep the money in the bank. Let's reinvest. There was no horse and the cart situation. We always put the cart first. Let's get the client later. Let's hire the talent.
Okay.
Because it takes a few months to train the talent, get them used to the system. So at any point we had a little excess staffing. Now I'm sure if my seniors hear this podcast, they'll be like, what the fuck? We were working 50 hours a week. What are you talking about? But we always put in a lot more talent than needed. But we work very hard, very hard.
And one of the, I suppose, challenges of growing a service business is key person influence. Like, to grow it, to sell it, is the fact that businesses, acquirers, don't want to buy a business that's linked to the two founders too much. They want a product.
100%.
How early did you acknowledge that, and what structure did you put in place to make sure it wasn't the Sachinn show?
So I think from 2017 itself, we started hiring the right people. And luckily, a lot of those people have stayed. Like, majority of our senior staff have been with us for the last 5-6 years. So that has been good. It's played a fantastic role in us getting us here, because it allowed us to do other things while these guys came on the journey with us. And that kind of gave us the confidence that we can build teams. So we always believed in a structure. We were never flatlined. We always said, you, second in command, third in command, like, let's create structures where everyone, if for whatever reason, one person's out of service for a month, leaves, the ecosystem doesn't fall through.
And did you give these people stock?
No, we didn't give them stock. But when we did the M&A, we gave them a little bit of thank you.
So did you, because in an industry, there is this, is the reason I'm asking this, in an industry that's, let's be frank, attrition is atrocious, right?
Yes.
No one people don't stay in agencies very long. Sounds like one of the keys to your success and the growth of your business is the fact that you managed to bring in a stable leadership team.
True.
And I think there's many people here that will go, how the hell did you do that in an industry where that's really bloody hard?
I think if you give them the right growth, the right opportunity, freedom. Today, if someone's leaving you alone to do your job and someone's paying you well, at some point you will not want to change, because that freedom gives you more, opportunity of doing other things within your realm, rather than going and working in a place that gives you a lot more money but is the whole day telling you exactly what to do. How the hell do you grow up if you're going to be told what to do at every point of the day? So our seniors have utmost freedom. I think they run the business like it's their business. There are times when I have to go and ask them, saying, is it okay if I do this? They joke about it, saying, you're the boss, right? I'm like, yes, but So they have a lot of freedom. Also, I've had the opportunity of working with people that I have worked with from my Sachinn days. Today, our CSD is someone who's been my account manager at Sachinn. She joined me in 2017. So she's been working with me for the last 15 years. The other senior was my account executive in Sachinn. So she's been working with me for the last 13 years. So there are people who've been working with me for a long period of time.
Okay. So that was the trick as well. These were people that knew and understand and believed in you.
Yes. There is a downside. of it. A lot of people, I have always hired friends and colleagues I have trusted, but I've also had to fire some friends who I don't talk to anymore, who have, said, what the fuck. I fired the best man who was at my wedding. I hired him for a job and he worked with us for a year and a half. It didn't work. I had to let him go.
Do you talk to him still?
No.
Yeah. I fired someone who was an usher at my wedding. He doesn't talk to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's brutal.
Would you do that again? Would you get
100%.
You would. No,
I
but
would.
would you hire friends again?
Yes,
You would.
I would. I see. This isn't personal. When you're hiring and firing, it's not personal. No one should take it personally. I'm not firing you because I don't like your face. I would rather hire someone. Firstly, our business is tough, right? Our business is brutal. And we get into it knowing that no one can walk into an advertising agency and think, oh, we were expecting something else. You weren't. You were expecting freedom. You were expecting money. But that comes with a lot of other stuff. You want to work in an environment that is friendly, that you know people, that you can crack a joke. You're working 50, 60 hours a week. You want to work with people that you like hanging out with. I mean, you hang out with them more than your families. I know more about my key senior people than, I would know about my friends from back home.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything wrong in it because you know what you're getting into. But at the same point of time, you should not hesitate to do the right thing for the business because today I have 85, 90 people that are working with us. My priority is those 90 families. The one person that's going to be upset with me, I wish him all the best and I really wish him all, success. But it will not come at the cost of the 90 people that I'm supporting.
What's been one of the hardest things that has happened to you since setting up the business?
I got divorced. I have blood pressure. But, these are things that entrepreneurs don't talk about. You are wearing a crown of thorns. And I think a lot of people in their life do not get that opportunity. So you're getting that opportunity of doing it. I think it's a privilege where you can build something from nothing, zero. You build value that a lot of people can't talk about. Like how many people in their 60s and 70s can say, I had no brand name, no value. I built something from scratch to something that was worthwhile and 90 people
worked there.
And those 90 families, looked up.
What would you do differently? Since from your setup days, when you look back on it now with the beautiful power of hindsight?
I think I would take out a little bit more time for family. I think you miss a lot of celebrations, a lot of, occasions thinking there'll be a next one coming. I think you look back and you feel like you should have been there for your family a little bit more because you have to prioritize both parts. But at that point, you are so blinded by one track.
You're in the trenches.
You're in the trenches. You're not looking up. So I think that would be the one part. And then the second part is I'd be less brutal on people that I maybe let go or, maybe manage certain talent differently. But, you have to be stubborn. All entrepreneurs are stubborn because you cannot be fluctuated every day because everyone who comes to you is only discouraging you. Market's not good. Client is going to walk away. Why are you doing this? Why don't you do a normal job? So you cannot listen. There's a lot of noise out there. You have to disconnect and do what you're doing.
Yep.
Sometimes you're wrong. Where the fuck do you look up to? In an MNC, you go to your boss and you say, I have a problem. He finds a solution. He goes to his boss. Who do you look up to? You are the boss.
Yeah.
You have to take a call, hope for the best. 70, 80% of the time it's right. Sometimes you fuck up. Who do you go and tell that fuck up? Can you go to your colleagues and say, you know what, boys, I fucked up. I should have done that differently. You have to suck it up. We are human beings.
But you have a business partner, so perhaps
some decisions you have to take. He is a creative boss. I don't interfere with his part.
So you don't. If there's someone got to be let go, if there's decision that's not right in your domain, you don't consult him. You're free reign. You do it.
I inform him. I tell him my thinking. Unless he tells me otherwise, like we had let go a senior person recently And we had a discussion about it multiple times. And, when it comes in my head, it doesn't go away. And with him, he's actually a nice guy. At business, I'm not. People think otherwise. And he wants me to give the opportunity and say, give it a go. Let's try. And after a point, I'm like, it's not working, man. Let's stop wasting time over it. So there is a free hand. At the end of the day, there's only one person at the steering. Thankfully, he's given me that steering.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you're taking it in the right direction.
Are you a lot more clinical now in the decisions that you make than you were in the early days?
Yes, 100%. Now I'm simpler. I don't overthink it. Before, I used to give a lot more opportunity. Now I don't, because I'm like, let's not waste time. I don't want to waste your time because your career is not going anywhere. I don't want you sitting in the system because others are looking at you saying, what the fuck? There is comparison saying, I'm working hard. I think when you're not an MNC, you can't get away with some people sitting in the system who are not adding as much value. In an MNC, it's easier because you can blame global. You can say, I want to fire, but global is not allowing me to do it. I want to do it, but there is a client pressure. There are other things you can put in that people are more understanding. Today, if someone comes to me after the M&A, and we'll talk about the M&A, I'm sure, I can always say, global didn't approve.
Yeah.
You're an entrepreneur. Who the fuck's not approving you are the decision maker. So it becomes harder to justify no. As long as you're saying yes, everyone loves you.
Gotcha.
You say no, why?
Yeah. So your business, clearly you've learned a lot. At what point were you approached or did you consider an exit?
So 2021 was our best year in the last 8 years from a growth bottom line perspective.
Okay.
And at that point we said, we were able to offer, so one of our big clients has other offices in Europe and they were very happy working with us. And we said, why are we limiting ourselves to the region? Why don't we look outside? And we said the best way to do that is to, go and work with a network agency that already has offices elsewhere. And also what has happened, which is in a way good, because from the start, we've always been saying, you are doing your ATL campaigns, you should also do a commerce campaign with it. The problem was that no network agency had a commerce offering. So they used to have the ATL guys do something and say, okay, this is commerce, but it wasn't. But by 2021, because of COVID, it's a good thing. COVID wasn't, but the pivot that happened with most network agencies, they started taking commerce seriously.
Okay.
And then they started offering commerce as part of the ATL. So it was the right time for us to say, we should also do the same. Go and sit with a network agency and then offer commerce with the ATL. So 2021 finished. 2022, we started giving it a thought. We started talking to a few people.
Giving it a thought as in selling?
Yes.
Okay. And did someone approach you?
Yes. So we had lunch with one of the network bosses, very interested. Conversation was superb and we were excited about it. And at that point, we started taking it seriously. Then we also started approaching.
So once one's had a nibble, you thought, you know what?
Yes.
Might be other people that have got an interest here. Did you feel your business was structured in such a way that it could be acquired then?
100%. We had hired a CFO. She was my CFO from Sachinn. She was superb. So we were always organized. Our monies were always very clean and simple. But she brought it to global standards. She's been a 25-year CFO. Yeah. So we were ready. So if someone came and checked our systems, they would be like, you're fit enough to be a global
And
seller.
for people that might be considering or have a dream of selling their business one day, when you say you were ready, what boxes had you ticked?
Have a proper structure. Founders are useless after a certain point of time because we are stubborn, we can't take orders, we have a lot of faults. That's what makes us good founders also, because, we have to be like that. So the structure gives the guy who's buying the company confidence that once this guy leaves, because he's making money, at some point he's going to say, fuck it, this is not for me. Yeah. There is a structure to run that company because, the return of investment is 5, 6, 7 years. Second, get a CFO. Don't try. I'm an ex-banker. I did finances for the longest 5, 6 years. We didn't have any CFO. My account manager, my Finance manager was good. I used to manage. But a global finance system and a local finance system is completely different. A good CFO is needed to give them the confidence that what you're telling them is true. There are systems in place. It's all about money. When you do the, audit, and when they come down to do the due diligence, I assumed, of course, it's going to be like, you're a small company in Middle East. How difficult is the due diligence?
Yeah.
When I looked at the requirement, I'm like, Christine, please, thank you, bye. So a good CFO is 100% needed. I think these two things solve 80% of the conversation.
Understood.
Do you have a structure? Do you have your finance sorted?
Yeah. So how quickly from you thinking, this could be someone's approached us about a sale. Cool, this looks quite interesting. I assume then some numbers have been
Yes.
touted around.
Yes.
You've gone, oh, okay, all right, this sounds quite interesting. Life's going to change here. How long from that moment to actually accepting an offer was it?
So we started talking to people in July of 2022. We got a serious offer on the 28th of April, 2023.
Okay.
Which was Havas, the company that finally acquired. We got other offers that we...
In between
we did.
But they weren't serious.
I think one was serious. We didn't feel that we were the right fit. We didn't want to be part of another commerce division. There was one more that was quite interesting, but it didn't go anywhere. It was quite exciting at that time.
And these are all agencies. No
Agencies.
Private equity.
Private equity came, but I didn't want to sell to a private equity because I don't want to make money for someone else. I want them to add value to my life.
Okay.
And overall add value to the commerce business.
Normally, private equity acquisitions, there's a bit more cash there involved. No?
Yes, but money comes and goes.
Okay.
If you're doing...
So that's interesting that you had that attitude. And I think that's a real interesting lesson for people then, that you had a vision that once you decided you want to sell it, you had a vision of what type of acquirer you wanted to take on 100%. Your baby.
I got a bigger multiplier than what Havas offered me, and I said no.
Okay.
If it was just for the money, we could do stock exchange, you could do other things, you could do property real estate. I would quit my job today and become a realtor.
So what was it that Havas had put on the table?
They loved commerce.
Okay.
Their love for commerce was pure. They were trying to set up so we are part of Havas Commerce, which is their global commerce offering in the region. That's why it's called Liquid Havas Commerce. Their love for commerce was pure, and they were excited about commerce. So my first lunch I had with, the global bosses and my local boss here as well. They were, and they still are, excited about what we offered. That was the good part. They weren't like, oh, you make a lot of money, you will add value to our top line and bottom line. Those things are understood. But that wasn't the primary cause. They wanted commerce offering in the region. And we then became that commerce offering for them.
Okay. So they're a clear vision for how you guys can fit into the business.
100%. So Havas globally has Havas Village. They have Havas Media, and within Havas Media sits Havas Commerce. In this region, commerce was missing. So Village was there, Media was there. We added commerce, and today we are now the same setup like you are in Europe and other parts.
Understood. So from accepting that offer in the April, you said?
Yes, 20th of April.
When did you actually sign?
So we signed, went back few times, multiplier, more, less. No harm in asking. I think we signed in June, and then the due diligence started.
So not actually that long, 3 months?
3 months, yeah, because you're signing an LOI.
My wife sold a tech company, and I was involved in a sale, but with my business partner. The sale with my business partner was pretty simple. Wasn't too. My wife's technology company got 6 months due diligence, picked the business apart.
Due diligence was taking time.
Yeah.
So we signed the LOI in June. Then the due diligence started. Due diligence was June to November.
Oh, so sorry. I misunderstood. You didn't accept the first offer.
We accepted the offer, but then after the offer, due diligence started.
Yeah, but you accepted the offer in the April. But it took till June for the LOI to come out.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So by June, we agreed on multiplier.
Understood.
We agreed on,
Yeah.
what are the terms of the basic handshake.
Understood.
Then due diligence started. June to November was due diligence.
And if you don't mind me asking, so a lot of people they ask me this. So if I want to sell a recruitment company, what is it when you say the word multiplier? Like in recruitment, it could be anything between 2 and 6, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Agencies typically around about 5. Okay, is it?
Agencies would be 6 upwards.
Okay.
Technology companies could be 8, 9.
Yeah.
As well. It really depends.
What
on
about commerce businesses? Where do they fit in all that?
I can't tell you how much we sold for, but I think 6 upwards is good.
Is it the reason I'm asking this is it because it's a commerce business?
Yeah.
Does it get preferential treatment? That's what I'm trying to get at.
I think preferential treatment is given based on how long your clients have been with you.
Gotcha.
What kind of consistency you have shown in your bottom line. How is your top line looking? Irrespective of what kind of business you are, the fundamentals have to be there for them to say, you know what, these guys are worth the money. Let's put in a little bit more. It's okay. You might have a sexy offering, but no fundamentals. It's not going to get you anything.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Understood. And I think that's a wise lesson for anyone thinking of selling their business. That's just those core elements that you put in there. What do you wish you'd done better having gone through due diligence? So due diligence, this is typically when the business then, you agree on a price and then they go under the bonnet and they pick you apart, right?
Yes.
Whilst you're still expected to run the business, keep everything operating, going through an extraordinarily stressful experience.
I think have good people around you. So my CFO was brilliant. She managed the E&Y guys.
Did she take a lot of the thumping
100%.
on this?
Of course, I had to sit down with her and we had to go through documents, but she was the one who was running the show. And this is why I'm saying you have to have a CFO. As a CEO or as a partner, don't do this without a CFO because you will destroy your business.
Yeah.
I was distracted doing it with her.
Yeah.
If I was doing it myself, there's no way in hell
Impossible.
I would have been able to do anything else. So that helped.
And how long did this process go on for?
So we went on June, it started, July, August, till I would say my first draft of the papers came to us in mid-October.
Okay.
So the due diligence was that period of time, June to October. And then the lawyers came on board. And of course, lawyers love talking.
Yes. But did you manage to keep the price that you were offered?
Yes.
Did it match post due diligence?
Our books were clean.
Perfect.
Our CFO is I get scared of my CFO. I really do. I don't get scared of anyone.
Yeah.
She won't allow it. She's by the book. Like even if I want her to do something, she'll be like, fuck off. It's not happening.
Yeah.
So I didn't expect any changes in the price because the audit report that went back was clean shit. No problem. Good.
And your business partner, how was he involved in all this?
Business partner was focusing on the creative part.
Sounds like he's got the easy ride in all this.
No, he has. If someone gave me a brief and gave me a deadline, I would not be able to deliver.
Okay.
He has other shit
So
to deal with.
he got on with the day to day.
Yeah, he got on with the day to day. I think being a creative in this environment anyways is very stressful between AI, your client not appreciating it, client saying, oh, my daughter looked at it and didn't like it. I would not want to be a creative. I would not recommend anyone starting their
So his mandate was just get on make sure everything ticks over. We'll deal with the stuff. Okay, got you. All right. So lawyers get involved.
Yeah.
Champagne's on ice.
Don't wait because the ice might melt.
This is what I'm getting at. Did it melt? How long did that take?
God. When the papers came to us in October, I told my lawyer saying, we'll close it by December, right? He laughed. He said, Sachinn, this is going to take 6 months. I'm like, Mark, come on, you can do this.
6 months on top of the 3
months. So October, we signed in March and Marco and me went at each other. Like for the amount of fights I have had with Marco.
Marco's who, sorry?
He is my lawyer.
Okay.
Great guy. And he said, you are not paying attention to this now. I said, why are you looking at this with doubt? I have no intention of fighting with Havas. Havas, very nice company, nice guys. So far, the interaction is great. Why are you doubting them? He said, but that's my job. I have to open this document with you taking me to court at some day.
Think of the divorce before the marriage.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I'm not thinking of it. I'm like, trust them. It's okay. Like, it's
Yeah.
fine. Let's move on. Marco is like, nope. I will look at this with a fine tooth comb. We will go through every detail and we will start with the worst.
Yeah.
We'll hope for the worst.
Which is what every good lawyer needs to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So he pushed back and I pushed him and we had so many arguments. And there's a time when Christine, my CFO, and my business partner Coleman said, calm down, dude, like let him do his job. And I was like, why is this taking so long? Because the reality was I wanted to finish it by December, approach clients in Jan saying, hey, now we are part of Havas.
Yeah.
Why don't you look at us for other things in the roster for this year? So the more we got delayed, the more that conversation would not happen because who the hell takes big decisions in March? We are taking it in December.
Gotcha. So from the lawyers got involved in October, you didn't do the deal till March.
Yes.
Okay.
It went on.
But did it end in a happy place?
Yes. Everyone's happy. I mean, Havas was quite accommodating. We were quite accommodating. And at some point, we looked at each other and said, we have no intention to fight. You have no intention to fight. You're paying us money. You hope for the best. We want to deliver the best.
Everyone's on the same team.
Everyone's on the same team and nothing has changed. We're still, a year later, we're still very much there.
And you are today the CEO and founder of Liquid Havas, right?
Co-founder.
Sorry. And obviously still working in the business.
100%.
Now, my wife, when
Yes.
she sold, it's a product business.
Yeah.
Out within 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
In our case, it's 3-4 years.
Yeah. So help people understand, like, again, though, for those aspiring or thinking of going on their own journey, or even at the early stage of their journey, what should they expect as an end game? Like, it's because it's very typical to have an earn out over a period of time.
Correct.
And how are those typically structured, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I think it's really, there are different phases. There's a complete buyout, and then your earn out happens within 3 years based on how you perform every year. There is the second methodology where you sell certain shares in year 1, certain shares in year 2, certain shares in year 3. In all cases, advertising agency, there's an earn out. 3 years is minimum. 4 or 5 years could be an addition. I think it's needed because the reality is, as a founder, you've made money, right? Or you've made some money. Your people have to adjust to this new system. Your clients have to adjust to this new system. They have to be maneuvered in a way that settles everyone down. You can't have client feeling things have changed in the agency, so I can't work with anymore. You can't have people feeling uneasy. So we've not lost anyone due to the M&A. We've kept that in mind. Havas was superb about it as well. They said no one's losing any jobs. This normal, typical crap of, okay, let's do the back-end integration and let's just get rid of certain people. Yeah. Nothing of that has happened. And that's allowed the business to stabilize, which is why most M&As do not work, because the person acquiring wants their methodology implemented in year 1.
Gotcha.
And the guy who's getting acquired doesn't want to implement it in any years. Like in the next 3 years, we don't want to do it. Both is not possible.
Yeah. But what I've also, and I've spoken to quite a few founders that haven't successfully completed their earnouts or that they've struggled. And it goes back to a word that you said earlier, and that word was freedom.
Yes.
And quite a few founders are used to having the freedom to flex, do what they want, where they want with their own business. And the minute they go into this journey, that's the one thing, the main thing that they lose. And that adaptation of going back into a corporate system and the fact that they're not as important as they once were as well, that decisions are going over their head. I know a lot of people that struggle with that. How did you cope with that?
I think first focus on maintaining your margins. Make your money. No one wants to piss off someone who's making money. If you are making money for your boss, why the hell are you giving him any excuse for him to sit down on your head and say, I want to poke in your business? Tell me, you run a business today. If your team member is doing well, are you going to waste your time and sit him down and say, dude, can I know your business better?
Yeah. But not everyone feels like that. Not every acquirer behaves like that. I was with someone very recently who's, was effectively fired from their, from the business that they've brought up, right? And the simple fact of the matter is that they just didn't value that person's role anymore, and there's a change of mind, and there's nothing that they were the majority shareholders now. There's nothing that person could do about it.
And fair enough. They did
Yeah.
the right thing in that case.
Yeah.
As a shareholder, you cannot get lazy.
Mm.
You cannot take your role for granted. Like even me, if I don't feel like I'm adding the right value to the business,
But I'm not saying it was that. I'm saying the face didn't fit anymore. And that
could be. And there are times when it just doesn't feel right. But the due diligence is already almost a year.
Yeah.
In that 1 year, if you don't make out that you're new owners and you are going to get along, I had several lunches and dinners with my current boss. We like each other.
Yeah.
I genuinely would love having a drink with him without talking work. If I met him somewhere randomly, I'd have a chat.
That's great.
And if you don't have that chemistry, don't do it.
So with your acquisition, it's the local team have acquired you, but are you involved with global?
100%. Global started the process. They brought local into the picture. They, of course, introduced us. Global drove it. Local adapted with it. But the reality is both parts are involved. We do work with global as well today, and we work with the local office as well. So it's not one or it's both, and it's fine. I think the M&A is, as I said, as founders, we are stubborn and we have to lose some of that stubbornness. There is a box, right? That box has to come into place. You work with an MNC, there's a box.
Yeah.
Question is the box small or is the box big?
Yeah.
You have to deal with the box. Otherwise, don't do the M&A.
Okay.
Just be independent.
So the day the deal's done, right?
Yes.
What did you do? Did you put your card in the cash machine and check to see it was in there?
Honestly, there's an article I read about M&A syndrome on how founders feel nothing after a week after doing the deal. And I remember, and I'm sure my co-founder feels I'm an asshole because we signed the deal at the lawyer's office. And he said, you want to go out for lunch? I said, no, I'm going back to work. He said, okay. So we have never officially, just both of us, have never gone out to celebrate. And maybe that's my, the way I live my life. I don't overtly celebrate success and don't overtly mourn failure. It's a very neutral experience. You have to do what you have to do. You've sold the company. I would treat an M&A as a responsibility because you have made your money. Now you have your employees. So your employees have come with you so far, right? Which means that you now have to help them pivot further, become bigger in their roles because they have stuck around with you. So now you have to help their careers.
I guess you have to get them to stay though as well because...
But if you help them grow, there's no reason for them to go in the first place. The problem happens is if they get stuck, you're not pushing them upward. You're not creating the right structure. You're not paying them well. So that irritates anyone because at some point they also understand you have made money. Share a little bit. I'm not saying give everything away, but share a little bit and also help them. What's next?
Yeah.
Everyone asks this question, right? What's next? Even for them, you should be able to answer that question. What's next?
Yeah, I understand. Curious, you didn't celebrate, so it sounds like it was a bit underwhelming.
You actually, I think most founders should know this. You feel nothing because by then you're already tired. You're fed up. You've dealt with the lawyers so much. You see a chunk of money in the bank. It looks good. You go and buy whatever property, car.
Porsche?
Actually,
Another one?
I booked the Porsche a year earlier.
Yeah.
It took a year to get the Porsche. Yes, but I bought the car.
So life didn't change that much. That's the point.
No, it didn't.
It's you just got on with it by the sounds of it. You just got on with it.
Yeah, and it shouldn't change that much. It's not like you've...
I don't know. Some people might like. Look, everyone's different, right? Everyone treats things differently.
Yes.
Some people do think it's like winning the lottery and have a great night out, and then get on with it.
I think it's a great responsibility. I think how many M&As have happened in this region?
Not a lot.
You have to make it work, right? If you fuck it up, you're screwing it up for the next person. If I don't deliver today, will Havas do an M&A again in the region? No. Why am I?
And you feel that sense of responsibility.
100%. I want Havas to look at this region and say, they have been the network that has acquired the most in the last 12 months. Okay. And I don't want to reveal everything, but there are some countries where they've done M&As, not one, multiple, but it's never worked. So I remember last time I gave them a suggestion about an M&A in that country and they said, not really, that M&As in that country have never worked. I don't want them to have that perception here. This is Havas's first M&A in the region, and I want it to work. I want global Havas thinking, Middle East, these fuckers know what they're doing.
Yep. Yep.
We should invest more there.
And you've got 3 years to go. So
Yes.
3 years to go in your deal. And obviously you're financially incentivized for
100%.
things to go very well.
Yes.
Have you thought about what you'll do after that?
100%.
Go on.
It's ready.
Any revelations?
Yeah, I want to get into the pet business. I have 4 dogs.
Okay.
I think it's a beautiful business to help, and create some kind of ecosystem within the city, because I feel like there's not a lot that happens when it comes to animal care here, and it's very underwhelming when you want to go and try and look for funding. And for the right reasons, the city doesn't allow donations because it has been misused in the past. So there is no ecosystem today to take care of these animals because we are very transitional. A lot of pets are left behind.
Mm.
And, a lot of people abuse saying, oh, this is why you should not get a pet. You don't know what the person's going through. You don't know what issues they are going through in life. Not your problem, right? This pet has given every pet, anyone who has a pet will tell you they give you their all. Good day, but they don't have a bad day. Have you ever seen a pet depressed?
I've got a cat at the moment, and a retired bulldog. And I say retired because he lives now in England. He grew up here, and now retired to the my mum's sort of. My mum's got quite a lot of land, and he's very happy. He's very happy there. Nearly 12 years old. So bulldogs do not live to nearly 12 years old.
Right.
So he's doing very well. Yeah, look, I think you're right. I mean, it was one of the most frustrating. We actually felt sorry for our dog, like not being able to take them to parks, not being able to take them to different places, not being able to. I remember when we lived in the marina, this bloody dog cost me a fortune, actually. I'm thinking about it now. A true story. I bought this dog very hungover. I took my wife to an awards do. It was one of the first ones we had at MCG, and I got extraordinarily drunk. And then we had a new person flying in, and I was helping him find an apartment, and I found it was in JLT, and at the bottom of this apartment was a pet, and I remember the name of it now, Petaholics. And there was this little bulldog puppy, and I basically just scooped it up and said, "Oh, I'm going to get that for my wife. That'll cheer her up." Little did I really think about the size this animal would go to. 36 kilos it went to. Oh my God, man. Anyway, we had to leave the apartment we were in because apartments, dogs banned.
Yes.
Couldn't walk, was walking around the marina, got the police sort of took me off the path, banned. So I was like, we were marooned with this bulldog that did poos like pizzas. So we had to get out of there. So I'm with you on the pets. There's stuff to do. But you're dealing with a lot of nationalities, and you're dealing with, I suppose, a lot of cultural issues.
This is why I'm saying don't judge the people.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah.
The animal needs a voice.
Yeah.
You try your best to help the process. Again, everyone's going through their own thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that needs attention. This city has a lot of pet lovers, but it also has a lot of issues to deal with animal care.
Yeah.
So I think, focus on something that.
So you're not just going to open a pet shop. You've got a niche. You've got an idea
pet
here.
shop, I mean, they're a dime a dozen.
Can you give us any insights to what this?
I would say more focus on their diet and their food.
Okay.
There's a lot of food out there. I have 4 dogs, and they have gone through blood pressure and allergies and stuff. Like all 4 of them consume different things. So after I got my first dog in 2013, and they're lovely. And I've gone through a lot in the last 12, 13 years. Today, if someone would have told me, I will tell you from day one, this is the kind of food, this is the kind of diet, this is what you should do, I would have said, fuck, I'll give you money. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And we need to create some ecosystem where some of these organizations that are doing the hard work of taking care of the pets are funded. Government won't allow us to do donations, and rightfully so, because there have been some misuse.
Yeah.
So how do we restructure that conversation so that everyone is taken care of without someone misusing those funds?
And I think as the city grows, there's just going to be an increasing need for this. So we shall look out for your next venture. It's been fascinating understanding your journey from kid in India, working for Standard Chartered Bank, a career in advertising, entrepreneur, sold your business to future pet entrepreneur as well. Very exciting. We'll have to get you back on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Having me.
Sachinn, is a pleasure. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be bringing many more guests into this, and do subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks a lot.